Hello, Facebook Live. Is that better? Checking my lighting here. That's no good. That's no good. That's... Alright. Hi. Alright, so I haven't been doing this in a couple of days, mostly because this next chapter sort of short-circuited my brain. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then I'm going to talk. Genesis chapter 20. And Abraham journeyed from there to the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. Now Abraham said of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, "Indeed, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, "Lord, will you slay a righteous nation also?" They have a cross-reference back to the whole issue with Sodom and Gomorrah. So I think what Abimelech is saying, it's like, okay, you blew up an evil nation. Are you going to blow up a righteous nation as well? Did he not say to me, "She is my sister"? And even she herself said, "He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands I have done this." And God said to him in a dream, "Yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours." So Abimelech rose early in the morning, called all his servants, and told all these things in their hearing, and the men were very much afraid. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I offended you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that ought not to be done." Then Abimelech said to Abraham, "What did you have in view that you have done this thing?" And Abraham said, "Because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will kill me on account of my wife. But indeed she truly is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, 'This is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place where we go, say of me, he is my brother.' Then Abimelech took sheep, oxen, and male and female servants, and gave them to Abraham, and he restored Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, See, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you." And then to Sarah he said, "Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Indeed, this vindicates you before all who are with you, and before everybody." Thus she was rebuked. That's interesting. She was rebuked. Then to Sarah he said, "Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Indeed, this vindicates you before all who are with you, and before everybody." Thus she was rebuked. We've got a cross-reference here of Genesis 26:11. So Abimelech charged all the people, saying, "He who touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." I do not understand what that's about. I didn't even see that before. Anyway, so Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants. Then they bore children. for the Lord had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. All right, so I'm sure that there's some people who would think that the reason that it short-circuited my brain is because Sarah was Abraham's sister, but that is not at all what bothered me. What bothered me is, what I have discovered in the Old Testament is a reoccurring theme, or a reoccurring thing that happens called typology. And I still don't have this figured out. I was hoping to figure it out before I posted this, but I finally gave up and let it go. Looking, maybe somebody else has an answer. Because there's this weird thing that happens in Genesis. It happens 3 times. And first, it's weird to happen once, much less 3 times. And that is this scenario where the husband says that his wife is actually his sister. Abraham does it twice. He does it once with Pharaoh and once with Abimelech. And then Isaac does it later on. We haven't gotten to that yet, obviously, because Isaac isn't even born. But Isaac does it later with his wife. And they're saying that the Bible says it's because they're afraid that the husband will get killed, so that whoever, the Pharaoh or Abimelech can have his wife free and clear. What does that mean? What is going on there? I actually kind of made a list. Like I said, I didn't find any answers, but I did make a list. I do know that in typology, Abraham stands in for God a couple of times in what he does. He is like portraying God to people who are watching, and Isaac is portraying Yeshua. So the first time that this happens, it's Abraham and Sarah and Pharaoh, and it happens down in Egypt. Pharaoh is beset by plagues. God steps in and tells Pharaoh that this is actually Abraham's wife. At the time he was called Abram. So the deception is revealed to whoever's being deceived by God. And the other thing I found was that the Pharaoh had actually taken Sarah. He hadn't done anything to her, but he had taken her away from Abraham. And so what I was looking for was where was it similar, where was it different? I found that, so the second time it's again Abraham, this time it's Abimelech, not Pharaoh. The third time it's Isaac, but it's also that same king, Abimelech. So I'm like, okay, we got 3 scenarios here. Twice it happens with Abraham, once with Isaac. Twice it happens with Abimelech, once with Pharaoh. Twice it happens in that land of Gerar, once it happens in Egypt. Twice it happens that she is his sister, once with Isaac. Rebecca's actually his cousin, not his sister. Twice the deception is exposed by God to whoever in a dream. The second time, or the last time with Isaac, Abimelech didn't actually take, because that's the other thing. Pharaoh actually took Sarah away from Abraham. Abimelech actually took Sarah away from Abraham. But that third time with Isaac, he didn't take Rebecca away from Isaac, and he looks out the window and looks down, and he sees Isaac and Rebecca doing something, making out, whatever it was that they were doing. They were playing, whatever it was they were doing. He knew that that they were married. So twice God reveals the deception. Once they figure it out for themselves, and I don't. And of course, twice there was actually something that happened to the kingdom as like a punishment. In Egypt, it was plagues. In Gerar, God had closed. Something was happening, so everybody stopped having kids. But of course, nothing happened the third time with Isaac. I suppose because Abimelech didn't actually take Rebekah away from Isaac. I don't know what this means. That's what I'm saying. There's a meaning here. There is a typology here. There is a prophecy here. And I don't know what it means. And that's why it took me so long to read this. To get to Genesis chapter 20. So having read that, I'm going to stumble on through, and I hope that people think about this. And if you can figure out, and what I mean by typology is this. When we get to that whole scenario about Isaac, that classic scenario of Abraham being asked by God to sacrifice his son. That even though I would have to look up the actual words, but what I do know about God is that God knew that what Abraham was going to do. This wasn't a test for Abraham to prove how much he loved God. That was not what was going on. God knows everything. He doesn't need the gesture, okay? Because he knew what was going to happen. What really was going on was that God kind of wanted Abraham to walk through like doing a play so that we who come later can see what God's plan was and how much, and so that we could have some kind of empathy, because we can empathize with Abraham. The horror of being asked to sacrifice your only son, not only because he had Ishmael, but his beloved son. Hi, Tamoriel, and we don't know what it means, but we clicked a button that said join the broadcast. Okay. I think I have invited you. Can you talk now? I think I have invited you.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I can see you. I can see you. So have you? Where did you step in? Did you hear me talking about the story and how I think it's a prophet?
We're messing around.
Huh?
Isaac and Rebecca were playing around.
Isaac and yeah, okay, all right. Well, what I think is, God has this. Talon wants to join. I don't know how that's going to go, but let's allow Talon to join. He's supposed to be in school. I don't know why he's joining Facebook Live when he's supposed to be in school, but let's give him a shot. Anyway, so you know how God has specific numbers he likes. God likes 3. God likes 7. God likes 12. Okay, and this scenario, which is weird, this is a weird thing. Can you ever imagine that you would go someplace and your husband says to you, say you're my sister, because I'm afraid they're going to kill me and take you away from me. So say, it's just a weird thing. Well, it not only happens, but it happens 3 times. 3 is one of those numbers. You know what I mean? So what is God trying to tell us with this scenario. This is making me crazy. It means something. It means something. And what I was going to say before you guys joined me was that typology about Abraham sacrificing Isaac, where God asks him to sacrifice Isaac at this particular mountain. So they go to the mountain, and it takes them 3 days to get there. So as far as Abraham is concerned, his son is as good as dead for 3 days. Jesus is dead for 3 days. Okay? At the bottom of the mountain, he says to the servants, you guys stay here. We're going to go on up alone. Isaac carries the wood for the burnt offering. Jesus carries the wood
for his cross.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's all these typologies that happen all through the Old Testament. And I know that this weird thing with, say, you're my sister, it means something, and I don't know what it is, but I think it's
Means
important.
divorce. Means punch in the nose. Divorce.
All right. So that's what I've decided, why it took me a week. I finally gave up. I'm like, obviously I'm not going to figure this out. I did learn lots of interesting things while I researched it. Because I went to, I did a lot of, one of the things that you can do is you can type in a Bible verse and into the internet, into Google, and then type commentary, and you'll get a ton of information. But apparently nobody has. No, there was a commentary where a guy said exactly what I said. This is a weird thing. It's a weird thing to happen once. So it's super weird that it happened 3 times. So it has to mean something. But nobody can figure out what it means.
So do you think there's a third time that happens?
I know there is. The 3rd time is Isaac. The first time it happens with Abraham and Sarah and Pharaoh in Egypt. That's the first time. The second time it happens with Abraham and Sarah with this King Abimelech. And the 3rd time it happens with Isaac and Rebekah and King Abimelech. So it happens 3 times. That's just weird. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just find it odd that it happened once. And like I said, God has what does Talon say? I don't know. Yeah, click the OK button, I guess, Talon. I don't know.
Oh, he's telling you to click to let him join the broadcast.
I thought I had. Add. All right, let's do this again. So I think it means something. I tried like for a week to figure out what it meant, and then I finally gave up and came back here and decided to move on. So I'm asking God, and I'm asking Facebook Live. What do you guys think it means? Spoke to Becky briefly last night before the Bible study, and she sent Debbie a text message because she was actually thinking about it. She said, how many times after Jesus was resurrected did he run into people who did not recognize him, who didn't know who he was? And I can only think of 2. But that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of typology where they don't really know.
Well, also he came as an angel when people didn't know. That's kind of like a disguise, right? Because they were saying last night how there was different times that Jesus appeared as an angel, but you have to like kind of figure out that it's Jesus.
Right, like that time with Balaam, with the donkey, where the donkey. Right, the donkey kept stopping, and not because Balaam couldn't see the angel of the Lord, the donkey could. Which, by the way, Debbie pointed out a long time ago was super interesting. Like, you ever notice that your dog, or in your case, Tamoriel, cats, like they see something And they're like, what the heck? What are you freaking out about? There's
But there's
nothing there, you know?
Oh yeah.
And that's basically what was happening with Balaam and his donkey. You know, Balaam's like, why are you being a jerk? There's nothing there. And
Yeah.
there actually was something there. The donkey could see it and he couldn't, you know? So we maybe should pay attention when our dogs start barking at dust mites in the corner, because there might be something there that we can't see, you know? Talon, you're making me crazy. I keep clicking add and you don't actually do whatever it is. What's he supposed to do, Amber? I clicked add. What did you do?
That's what we did. We asked to add it. We didn't know what the button meant, but here we are.
Okay. Well, I clicked add, Talon. You should be here somewhere. You click add.
We're gonna talk about this word Sapoda later, Talon, you and me.
Yeah, what is Sapoda?
Supposed to, I think.
I think so too.
Him and Papa have their own language.
We need more actual reading of books, because you would be able to spell things if you had seen these words before.
Sapoda.
Sapoda. Sapoda.
Nice, Talon, nice.
So you want me to keep reading into chapter 21?
Yeah.
Okay. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age. I feel like we have totally, that's another thing. So we got this whole thing going on here with Abraham journeying. All right, so back here in Genesis 18, God says Sarah's going to have a baby, even though she's super old. And then we wander off into Sodom and Gomorrah and blow up those cities. And then we wander off into Gerar and have a problem with King Abimelech. And now we're back here to, and by the way, Sarah is going to have a baby. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son, who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Isaac means laughter, because they both laughed. Because Abraham was 100, all right, envision now, you're 90. And an angel shows up and says, by the way, you're going to have a baby.
No.
You're going to laugh. Okay? Anyway. Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, and as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. She also said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, for I have borne him a son in his old age. So the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of your son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on her shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Time frame wise, he's a boy, but he's not like little. We're not talking about 3-4 years old. because I think he was 13 when he was circumcised, and that was before Isaac was even born. So we're talking about like Talon's age, There, that's it. Talon kicking you out. Here's a loaf of bread and a skin of water. Get out. Get a job. Go get a job. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba, and the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down across from him about a distance of a bow shot, for she said to herself, "Let me not see the death of the boy." So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, "What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him with your hand, for I will make him a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad a drink. So God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. And it came to pass, at the time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, "God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me by God that you will not deal falsely with me, with my offspring, or with my posterity, but that according to the kindness that I have shown to you, you will do to me, to the land in which you have dwelt." And Abraham said, "I will swear." Then Abraham rebuked Abimelech because of the well of water which Abimelech's servants had seized. And Abimelech said, "I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, nor had I heard of it until today." So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Then Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs?" See, there's a lot of symbology. They use symbolism a lot. Okay, and here's the number 7. "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs which you have set by themselves?" And he said, "You will take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, that they may be a witness that I have dug this well." Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because the two of them swore an oath there. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. So Abimelech rose with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And he lived in the land of the Philistines many days. And that's the end of chapter 21, and that's probably good enough for today.
Okay.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye.